The emergency beacon had been transmitting for 3 standard cycles when the Galactic Council finally acknowledged its existence. In the pristine chambers of the orbital station above Centauri Prime, Ambassador Veltar of the Hegemony Alliance adjusted her crystalline breathing apparatus and gazed at the holographic display with barely concealed irritation. "Another distress call from the Outer Rim," she announced to the assembled delegates, her voice carrying the musical tones typical of her species. "The Kepler system, to be precise. Pirates have apparently overrun their mining colonies." The chamber erupted in the polite equivalent of groans from a dozen different species. Counselor Zexnai, whose serpentine form coiled around his hover platform, flickered his tongue in annoyance. "The Kepler system again? Those humans are always getting themselves into trouble. It's the 3rd time this cycle." "4th," corrected Ambassador Veltar, scrolling through the data with her elongated fingers. "Their primitive technology and aggressive nature make them frequent targets. The pirates know they can't defend themselves properly." Ambassador Quintel, a tall, ethereal being whose translucent skin showed the slow pulse of his internal light organs, leaned forward. "What exactly are they requesting this time?" "The usual," Veltar replied with a dismissive wave. "Military assistance, advanced weapons, shield technology. They want us to drive off the pirates and protect their little mining operation." A collective sigh rippled through the chamber. The human colonies were notorious for their inability to handle even basic security threats. Their backward technology, combined with their stubborn insistence on settling the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy, made them a constant drain on Council resources. "I suppose we should send a patrol squadron," Counselor Zexnai said reluctantly. "The Altuiran Defense Force has some light cruisers available." "Actually," interjected Ambassador Veltar, "I've been reviewing the humans' recent requests. They've been asking for aid almost monthly. Perhaps it's time we let them handle this themselves. Maybe facing real consequences will teach them to invest in proper defenses." The chamber fell silent as the delegates considered this. The humans were a relatively new species to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 2 centuries ago. Their colonies were scattered across some of the most hostile worlds in the galaxy, and their technology was primitive by galactic standards. Most species had written them off as a minor nuisance that would either learn to adapt or eventually destroy themselves. "The pirates are Vrex raiders," Veltar continued, reading from the report. "A fairly large fleet, according to their sensors. At least 30 vessels." 30? Quintel's light organs pulsed in surprise. "That's larger than usual. What could they possibly want from a human mining colony?" "Apparently, the humans have been mining some rare elements. The pirates probably want to steal their stockpile." Veltar paused, then added, "The humans are requesting immediate assistance. They say the pirates are already in system and will reach their colonies within 2 days." The silence stretched longer this time. Everyone knew that by the time they organized a response fleet, the pirates would have already hit the colonies and departed. The humans' plea for help had come too late, as usual. "I move that we decline their request," Veltar announced. "We should send a message expressing our regret that we cannot provide immediate assistance, and suggest they evacuate their non-essential personnel." "Seconded," said Counselor Zexnai. "All in favor?" The vote was unanimous. Another day, another human colony left to fend for itself. Captain Saracen stood on the bridge of the mining station Prometheus, watching the sensor display with growing anxiety. The pirate fleet was massive, far larger than anything they'd dealt with before. 37 vessels, ranging from small raiders to what looked like converted military cruisers. Her small security force of 6 patrol boats wouldn't last 5 minutes against them. "Any word from the council?" she asked her communications officer. Lieutenant Rodriguez shook his head grimly. "They declined our request for assistance. Said they couldn't provide immediate aid and suggested we evacuate non-essential personnel." Chen cursed under her breath. The mining operation on Kepler 442b represented 5 years of backbreaking work. They'd finally struck a rich vein of rare earth elements that would set up their colony for decades to come. Abandoning it now would mean starting over from nothing. "How long until the pirates reach us?" she asked.
18 hours, Captain. Maybe less if they push their engines.
Chen stared at the tactical display, her mind racing.
The colony had 3,000 people, including families.
The evacuation ships could maybe carry 1,000, and that was if they left everything behind.
Even if they managed to get everyone off the planet, the pirates would destroy everything they'd built. Captain, Rodriguez said quietly, there is one other option. Chen turned to him. What?
The Emergency Military Assistance Protocol.
It's buried in the colonial charter, but it's still active. If we declare a state of emergency and request aid from Earth's 300 light-years away, Chen said.
Even if they sent help immediately, it would take months to get here.
Actually, Captain, that's not entirely accurate.
The voice came from Dr. Amanda Foster, the colony's chief scientist. She'd been quietly working at a console in the back of the bridge.
I've been monitoring the quantum communication networks. There's been unusual activity in the Sol system lately.
Massive energy signatures, fleet movements.
Something big is happening. Chen frowned. What kind of fleet movements? I'm not sure.
The signals are heavily encrypted, but the scale is unprecedented. It's like they're mobilizing for a major operation.
That doesn't help us, Chen said.
Even if Earth has some kind of fleet, they're still too far away.
Rodriguez cleared his throat. Actually, Captain, according to the protocol, we don't request aid from Earth specifically. We request aid from the United Earth Defense Force, wherever they might be.
Chen stared at him.
You think there might be Earth forces closer than we thought?
It's possible. The Defense Force has been expanding their reach lately.
Maybe they have forward bases we don't know about. Chen considered this for a moment.
It was a long shot, but they were running out of options.
How do we activate the protocol? Standard emergency transmission on all frequencies.
We declare a state of emergency and request immediate military assistance from any United Earth Defense Force units in range.
Do it, Chen ordered. And keep monitoring those quantum signatures. If there's even a chance of help coming, I want to know about it.
As Rodriguez began composing the emergency transmission, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. The Council's dismissive attitude toward human colonies wasn't new, but something about this situation felt different. The pirates were too organized, too well-equipped for a simple raid. And those energy signatures from Earth.
Transmission sent, Captain, Rodriguez announced. Broadcasting on all frequencies.
Now we wait, Chen said grimly.
And hope somebody's listening. Admiral Marcus Hammer Harrison stood on the command deck of the UES Valkyrie, watching the holographic display with the intensity of a predator studying its prey. The massive dreadnought was the flagship of the United Earth Defense Force's Third Fleet, currently stationed at the recently established Firebase Omega in the Centauri sector. Admiral, his communications officer called out, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Kepler system. Colonial Emergency Protocol 7. Harrison's eyes narrowed.
Protocol 7 was reserved for extreme situations, colonies under imminent threat of destruction with no other options available.
Put it through.
Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge, tense with barely controlled desperation.
This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Kepler 442b mining colony. We are declaring a state of emergency under Colonial Emergency Protocol 7. We are under imminent threat from a large pirate fleet, 37 vessels strong. The Galactic Council has declined to provide assistance. We are requesting immediate military aid from any United Earth Defense Force units within range. Time to contact, approximately 16 hours. Please respond if you receive this transmission.
The bridge fell silent. Harrison's jaw clenched as he processed the information. Another human colony abandoned by the so-called civilized galaxy. Another group of humans left to die because they weren't worth the effort to save. How far are we from the Kepler system? He asked his navigation officer. 12 hours at maximum burn, sir. We'd arrive with about 4 hours to spare. Harrison turned to his tactical officer.
What do we know about Vrex raiders? Primitive but numerous, sir. They rely on overwhelming force and intimidation.
Their ships are converted civilian vessels with basic shields and weapons.
Against a proper military force, they're not much of a threat. And how big is this fleet we're looking at? 37 vessels, sir.
Mostly raiders and converted freighters. Their largest ship appears to be a modified heavy cruiser. Harrison smiled grimly. The third fleet consisted of 12 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts, 4 heavy cruisers, and 5 destroyers. It was designed to take on entire enemy fleets, not chase down pirates. This would be like using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut. Signal all ships, Harrison ordered. We're moving to assist the Kepler colony. Maximum burn. I want to be in system with time to spare. His first officer, Commander Sarah Drake, stepped forward. Sir, shouldn't we request permission from Fleet Command? This is a significant deployment. Harrison's eyes flashed with barely contained anger.
Commander, there are 3,000 humans in that colony.
They're about to be butchered by pirates while the galaxy watches and does nothing.
We're not asking permission to do our job.
Yes, sir, Drake replied, understanding the Admiral's mood. Like most of the Defense Force's senior officers, Harrison had grown up hearing stories about the early days of human expansion, when colonies were routinely abandoned by the galactic community. The man had zero tolerance for species that considered human lives expendable. Besides, Harrison added with a cold smile, the Third Fleet is operating under expanded patrol orders. We have full authority to respond to threats in this sector. As the massive fleet began to move, Harrison felt the familiar thrill of impending combat. The Vrex raiders were about to learn a hard lesson about the difference between easy prey and apex predators. The Galactic Council was in session, discussing trade regulations, when the first reports began coming in. Ambassador Veltar was reviewing a particularly tedious proposal about shipping lane taxes when her aide approached with an urgent message. Ma'am, we're receiving concerning reports from the Kepler system. Veltar looked up in annoyance. What now? Are the humans complaining about our decision not to help them? No, ma'am. It's about the pirates. They're gone. Gone? Veltar's crystalline breathing apparatus flickered with surprise. What do you mean, gone? The pirate fleet, ma'am. All 37 vessels. They've been completely destroyed. The chamber fell silent as every delegate turned to listen. Counselor Zexnai's serpentine form coiled tighter around his platform. Destroyed? By whom? Unknown, ma'am. The initial reports are confusing. The humans are claiming they received military assistance, but they won't specify from whom. Ambassador Quintel's light organs pulsed rapidly. Could another species have intervened? Perhaps the Alterans changed their minds? Negative, sir. The Altuiran Defense Force confirms none of their vessels were in the area. Same with the Hegemony Fleet and the Zentari Patrol. Veltar stood up, her elegant form trembling slightly. Are you telling me that 37 pirate vessels were destroyed by an unknown force? Yes, ma'am. And ma'am? The reports suggest it wasn't even a battle. The pirates were annihilated in less than 30 minutes. The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Destroying a fleet of 37 vessels in half an hour was far beyond the capabilities of any known military force in the sector. Even the Council's most advanced fleets would have needed hours to accomplish such a feat. Get me a direct line to the Kepler colony, Veltar ordered. I want to speak to whoever's in charge. Ma'am, we've been trying. The humans are not responding to our communications. Not responding? Veltar's voice rose in pitch. They were begging for our help yesterday, and now they won't talk to us? No, ma'am. They're talking to us. They're just not answering our questions about the mysterious military force. Veltar's mind raced. A powerful unknown fleet had just demonstrated the ability to annihilate pirate formations in minutes. If this force was hostile, it could pose a significant threat to galactic security.
If it was friendly, it might represent a new player in the galactic power structure. Put me through to the colony, she ordered.
Captain Chen smiled as she watched the Council's communication request flash on her screen. After 16 hours of ignoring their calls, she supposed it was time to talk to them.
"This is Captain Sarah Chen," she said as the connection opened. "How can I help you, Ambassador?"
Veltar's image appeared on the screen, her usual composure replaced by obvious anxiety.
"Captain Chen, we understand you received military assistance in dealing with the pirate threat. We need to know who provided this assistance." "Why?" Chen asked innocently. "Yesterday you told us you couldn't help and suggested we evacuate. Today you're suddenly interested in our affairs?" "Captain, this is a matter of galactic security. A powerful unknown force has destroyed 37 vessels. We need to know who they are and what their intentions might be."
Chen leaned back in her chair. "I'm sure I don't know what you mean, Ambassador. We simply received assistance from Allied forces."
"Allied forces?"
Veltar's breathing apparatus flickered rapidly.
"What Allied forces? Humans don't have any significant military presence in this sector." "Don't we?" Chen asked with a slight smile.
"Perhaps you should update your intelligence reports."
"Captain, I'm ordering you to provide us with full details about this mysterious fleet." Chen's expression hardened. "Ambassador, with all due respect, you have no authority to order me to do anything. The Kepler colony is an independent human settlement.
We're not subject to Council jurisdiction.
You're members of the galactic community. You have obligations." "Our obligations," Chen interrupted, "are to protect our people and our interests. Yesterday, when we needed help, you abandoned us.
Today, when we've solved our problem, you want information."
"I'm afraid it doesn't work that way."
Veltar's image flickered with rage.
"Captain, you are playing with forces beyond your understanding.
If there's a powerful unknown fleet operating in this sector, it affects everyone's security."
"Then perhaps," Chen said calmly, "you should have thought of that before you decided human lives weren't worth protecting."
The connection ended, leaving Veltar staring at a blank screen. Around her, the chamber buzzed with worried conversation. The humans were clearly hiding something, and that something had just demonstrated the ability to destroy entire fleets.
Admiral Harrison was enjoying a cup of coffee in his ready room when Commander Drake entered with a datapad.
"Sir, we're receiving multiple inquiries from various galactic powers. They all want to know about our mysterious fleet and our unknown capabilities."
Harrison looked up from his coffee. "Are they now? How interesting. What exactly are they asking?"
"Everything, sir. Fleet composition, technology, deployment schedules, intentions."
"The Galactic Council is particularly insistent."
"I'm sure they are." Harrison set down his coffee and leaned back in his chair. "You know, Commander, it's funny how quickly their attitude changes when they realize they might have underestimated us."
"Yes, sir." "Should we respond to their inquiries?"
"Oh, absolutely. Send them our standard response. The United Earth Defense Force operates under the authority of the Earth Colonial Administration and is not subject to external oversight.
Any questions about our operations should be directed to the appropriate Earth authorities." Drake smiled. "That should keep them busy for a while." "Indeed." "And Drake?"
"Make sure our patrol schedules are updated.
I want regular sweeps of all human colonies in this sector. If the pirates want to target human settlements, they're going to have to go through us." "Yes, sir."
"What about the other species?"
"Some of them might object to increased human military presence." Harrison's expression grew cold. "Commander, let me be very clear about our position.
We've spent 2 centuries watching human colonies get abandoned, raided, and destroyed while the civilized galaxy stood by and did nothing. Those days are over. Any species that has a problem with us protecting our people is welcome to take it up with the Third Fleet."
"Understood, sir." "Good. Now, what's our next patrol destination?" "The Titan system, sir. They've been reporting increased pirate activity." Excellent. Signal the fleet. It's time to let the galaxy know that humans are no longer easy prey.
The news spread through the galactic community like wildfire. The humans, previously dismissed as a minor species with primitive technology, had somehow destroyed a major pirate fleet in minutes. Rumors flew about secret weapons, hidden fleets, and mysterious allies. In the elegant corridors of the Altuiran Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador Zethran paced nervously as he read the latest intelligence reports. The Alterans had always prided themselves on their superior technology and military might. The idea that humans might possess weapons capable of annihilating entire fleets was deeply unsettling. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered to his aide. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. How could they possibly have developed such capabilities?" "Perhaps they received assistance from an unknown species," the aide suggested. "Unknown species don't just appear out of nowhere with advanced military technology."
"No, this has to be something else. Secret research, hidden developments, maybe even alien technology they've reverse engineered."
On the other side of the galaxy, the Zentari Empire was having similar discussions. General Krixtal, Supreme Commander of the Zentari War Fleet, studied the tactical reports with growing concern. 37 vessels destroyed in 30 minutes, he said to his staff. "That's impossible with conventional weapons. They must have some kind of super weapon." "Sir, our intelligence suggests the humans have been expanding their military presence in the outer sectors.
Perhaps they've been preparing for something like this." Krixtal's four eyes narrowed. "Preparing for what?" "The humans are peaceful. They don't start wars.
They get attacked by pirates and beg for help from the Council."
"Maybe that was all an act, sir."
"Maybe they were using the pirate attacks to justify a military buildup."
The general considered this.
If the humans had been secretly developing advanced military technology while playing the victim, it would represent a significant shift in the galactic balance of power. The Zentari Empire had always viewed humans as insignificant, but a species capable of destroying entire fleets might be worth watching.
Meanwhile, in the shadowy depths of the Vrex pirate strongholds, panic was spreading.
The destruction of warlord Grax Nar's fleet had sent shockwaves through the entire pirate confederation. 37 ships, including some of their heaviest hitters, had been wiped out without inflicting a single casualty on the enemy.
"How?"
Warlord Velkroth demanded, his scarred face twisted in rage.
"How did the humans destroy an entire fleet?"
His subordinates cowered before him, none willing to voice the obvious answer: they had no idea. The tactical data was sparse, but what they had was terrifying. The human fleet had appeared suddenly, engaged the pirates at extreme range, and systematically destroyed every vessel with weapons that seemed to ignore shields and armor.
"Maybe we should avoid human colonies," one of his captains suggested quietly. Velkrotha's eyes blazed with fury. "Avoid them? The humans have made us look weak. Every species in the galaxy is going to think they can push us around if we don't respond."
"But sir, if they have weapons that can,
then we'll bring more ships."
Velkroth roared.
"We'll bring the entire Confederation if necessary.
The humans will learn that the Vrex are not to be trifled with." 3 weeks later, the second shoe dropped. The Vrex had assembled the largest pirate fleet in their history, over 200 vessels of various sizes and capabilities. They'd stripped their strongholds of every combat-capable ship, calling in favors and debts from across the criminal underworld.
The target, the human colony on Kepler 442b.
The message was clear: no one embarrassed the Vrex and lived to tell about it. Admiral Harrison received the intelligence report while reviewing patrol schedules in his ready room. The massive pirate fleet was moving toward the Kepler system with obvious hostile intent. 200 ships against his 12-vessel fleet would normally be considered impossible odds, but Harrison had been planning for this possibility.
"Drake," he called to his first officer, Signal Admiral Chun Watanabe. "Tell her it's time to implement Operation Thunderstrike."
"Yes, sir."
"Should I inform the Kepler colony?" "No need. Captain Chen will figure it out when she sees what's coming."
Commander Drake hesitated.
"Sir, are you sure about this? 200 ships is a lot, even for us."
Harrison smiled grimly. Commander, those pirates are about to learn why humans are called Deathworlders.
They're also about to learn why the galaxy should have paid more attention to what we've been building.
The Vrex fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system like a plague of locusts. 200 vessels of various sizes and configurations, from small raiders to massive converted cargo haulers bristling with weapons.
At the center of the formation, Warlord Velkrotha's flagship, the Blood Ripper, led the charge toward the human colony. Scan for enemy vessels, Velkroth ordered. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with.
His sensor operator's tentacles danced over the controls. Sir, I'm detecting 12 vessels in orbit around the human colony. They appear to be military vessels, but what? Sir, they're huge. The largest one is reading almost 4 kilometers in length.
Velkrotha's scarred face twisted into a grin. 12 ships against 200. The humans are even stupider than I thought.
On the bridge of the UES Valkyrie, Admiral Harrison watched the approaching pirate fleet with professional interest. 200 ships was impressive by pirate standards, but he'd faced worse odds during the Centauri campaign.
Signal all ships, he ordered.
Battle stations.
Prepare for Operation Thunderstrike.
Sir, his tactical officer called out, incoming transmission from the pirate fleet.
Put it through. Warlord Velkrotha's ugly face appeared on the main screen. Human Admiral, I am Warlord Velkroth of the Vrex Confederation.
You destroyed my brother's fleet.
Now you will pay for that insult. Harrison regarded the alien pirate with cold eyes. Warlord, you are in violation of the Colonial Protection Act. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences.
Velkroth laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge.
Consequences? I have 200 ships, human. You have 12. What consequences could you possibly threaten me with?
You're about to find out, Harrison replied, and cut the connection. The pirate fleet was spreading out, preparing to overwhelm the human formation through sheer numbers. It was a classic pirate tactic: surround the enemy and attack from all directions.
Against a conventional force, it might have worked.
But the Third Fleet was far from conventional.
All ships, execute Thunderstrike on my mark, Harrison ordered. Remember, we want to send a message. No survivors.
The battle began when the pirates opened fire at maximum range. Hundreds of energy beams and missile salvos streaked toward the human fleet, only to splash harmlessly against advanced shield systems that had been developed in secret over the past 50 years.
Shields holding at 98%, his tactical officer reported. Minor fluctuations in Grid 7.
Return fire, Harrison ordered.
The human fleet's response was devastating.
Each dreadnought carried weapons that had been designed specifically to counter large enemy formations.
Mass drivers that could punch through multiple ships with a single shot. Particle beams that could slice through entire formations.
And most terrifying of all, the new quantum disruptors that simply deleted sections of enemy ships from existence. The first salvo from the Valkyrie alone destroyed 15 pirate vessels. The other ships in the formation added their own firepower, and within minutes, the pirate fleet was in chaos.
Impossible.
Velkroth screamed as his ships began dying around him.
How are they doing this?
His sensor operator was barely coherent with terror. Sir, their weapons are cutting through our shields like they don't exist. And their range, they're hitting us from distances that should be impossible. The human fleet advanced steadily, their weapons systematically dismantling the pirate formation. Ships that had survived dozens of battles were destroyed in seconds. Vessels that had been the terror of the spaceways simply vanished under the onslaught. Velkroth watched in horror as his magnificent fleet was reduced to scrap metal. All ships, retreat. Fall back to hyperspace. But it was too late. The human fleet had positioned itself to cut off all escape routes.
One by one, the pirate ships were hunted down and destroyed.
The few that managed to break free found themselves facing a new terror: human destroyer squadrons that had been lying in wait. The battle lasted exactly 47 minutes. When it was over, 200 pirate vessels had been reduced to debris. The human fleet had suffered no casualties and minimal damage to their shields. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Admiral Harrison surveyed the aftermath with satisfaction. "Signal all ships. Begin recovery operations. I want detailed scans of every piece of wreckage. Intelligence will want to know everything about Vrek's fleet composition and capabilities." "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving multiple transmissions from across the galaxy. Everyone wants to know what just happened." Harrison smiled coldly. "Tell them exactly what happened, Commander." "The United Earth Defense Force protected human lives and interests. And make sure they understand that this is just the beginning." The news of the Second Battle of Kepler sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The humans had just destroyed a fleet of 200 vessels without taking a single casualty. The tactical implications were staggering. In the emergency session of the Galactic Council, panic was barely contained beneath the veneer of diplomatic protocol. Ambassador Veltar stood before the assembly, her crystalline breathing apparatus flickering rapidly with stress. "The humans have demonstrated military capabilities far beyond our previous estimates," she announced. "They've destroyed over 230 vessels in the past month without suffering any losses." Counselor Zexnai's serpentine form coiled tighter around his platform. "How is this possible? Our intelligence suggested they had only basic defensive capabilities." "Our intelligence was wrong," Veltar replied grimly. "The humans have been secretly developing advanced military technology. Their weapons systems are decades ahead of anything we've seen." Ambassador Quintel's light organs pulsed with anxiety. "What are their intentions? Are they planning to expand their territory?" "Unknown. They've been unresponsive to our diplomatic overtures. All they'll say is that they're protecting their colonies." The chamber erupted in worried chatter. The idea that humans, previously dismissed as a minor species, might possess superior military technology was deeply unsettling to the established galactic order. "We need to reassess our entire relationship with the human species," Veltar continued. "If they can destroy entire fleets without losses, they represent a significant shift in the balance of power." "What about their expansion?" asked another delegate. "How many colonies do they have? How large is their military?" "We don't know," Veltar admitted. "Our intelligence on human activities has been limited. We assumed they were too primitive to pose a threat." The admission hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The galactic community had been so focused on their own affairs that they'd completely missed the rise of a potentially dominant military power. "I propose we send a formal diplomatic mission to Earth," Quintel suggested. "We need to establish proper relations with their government." "And if they refuse to meet with us?" Zexnai asked. "Then we'll know we have a problem," Veltar replied. On Earth, President Martinez was reviewing the latest reports from the Defense Force when her Chief of Staff entered with an urgent message. "Madam President, we're receiving a formal diplomatic request from the Galactic Council. They want to send a delegation to Earth to discuss improved relations." Martinez looked up from her datapad. "How interesting. Last month they were ignoring our colony's pleas for help. Now they want to talk. What should we tell them?" Martinez considered for a moment. The Third Fleet's actions had been planned for months, part of a broader strategy to establish human military credibility. The destruction of the pirate fleets had been a necessary demonstration, but it was only the beginning. "Tell them we're open to discussions," she said finally. "But they'll have to wait. We're in the middle of Fleet Week." "Fleet Week?" "The annual review of our military capabilities. It's a public event. Citizens from across the system come to see our latest ships and weapons systems. Perhaps our galactic neighbors would like to observe as well." Her Chief of Staff smiled. "I'll extend the invitation." The Galactic Council's delegation arrived at Earth expecting to meet with a small group of human officials and perhaps tour some primitive military facilities. What they found instead was a display of military might that left them stunned. Ambassador Veltar stood on the observation deck of the Luna station, watching the human fleet demonstration with growing amazement. Hundreds of vessels filled the space around Earth, from small patrol craft to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything in the galactic fleet.
"This is impossible," she whispered to her aide. "Where did they get all these ships?"
"According to their officials, they've been building them for decades," the aide replied. "They call it the Colonial Defense Initiative." Veltar watched as squadron after squadron of advanced warships performed complex maneuvers with precision that spoke of extensive training and experience. Each vessel was larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Council's arsenal. "How many ships do they have?" she asked. Their admiral mentioned over 3,000 vessels currently in service, with more being built every month. Veltar felt faint.
3,000 ships?
The entire Galactic Council fleet numbered fewer than 800 vessels, and most of those were light patrol craft.
"What about their ground forces?" she asked weakly.
"They've invited us to observe their marine training exercises tomorrow. Something called Deathworld Warfare Simulation." The next day, the delegation watched in horrified fascination as human Marines demonstrated their combat capabilities. The soldiers moved through environments that would kill most galactic species in minutes: toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, crushing gravity. They fought with weapons that could punch through advanced armor and coordination that spoke of centuries of combat experience.
"These aren't just soldiers," Counselor Zexnai observed. "They're living weapons."
"It's worse than that," Veltar replied. "They're trained to fight on death worlds.
Planets that would kill us just by breathing the air." The demonstration continued with displays of human technology that shouldn't have existed.
Vehicles that could operate in any environment, weapons that could penetrate any defense, and soldiers who could fight in conditions that would incapacitate most galactic species. When the demonstrations ended, the human officials invited the delegation to a formal dinner. President Martinez herself attended, along with several high-ranking military officers. "We hope you found our little demonstration educational," Martinez said as they were seated.
"Educational," Veltar repeated weakly.
"Yes, that's one way to put it. We wanted to make sure the galactic community understands our capabilities," Admiral Harrison added.
"There seems to have been some confusion about humanity's position in the galaxy." "Indeed," Martinez continued. "We've been watching the treatment of human colonies for decades.
The dismissive attitude, the refusal to provide aid, the assumption that we're too primitive to matter. We thought it was time to correct those misconceptions." Veltar's breathing apparatus flickered rapidly. "Madam President, I assure you that the Council has always valued humanity's contributions to the galactic community."
"Really?" Martinez smiled coldly.
"Then why did you refuse to help the Kepler colony when they requested aid? Why have you consistently ignored human interests in Council decisions?" "There were resource constraints," Veltar said weakly. "Of course there were," Harrison interjected.
"The same resource constraints that somehow disappear when hegemony colonies are threatened. The same constraints that don't apply when Altuiran shipping lanes need protection."
The room fell silent. Everyone knew the accusations were true, but no one had expected the humans to call them out so directly.
"What do you want?"
Veltar asked finally.
"Recognition," Martinez replied. "Recognition that humans are a major power in this galaxy.
Recognition that our colonies deserve the same protection as anyone else's. And most importantly, recognition that the days of dismissing human interests are over."
"And if we refuse?"
"Then you'll discover what happens when you pick a fight with a species that evolved on a death world," Harrison said quietly.
The galactic community's response was swift and panicked.
Within days of the human demonstration, every major species was reassessing their military capabilities and diplomatic positions. The humans had revealed themselves as a military superpower that had been hiding in plain sight. The Altuiran Diplomatic Corps sent urgent messages to all their colonies, warning them to treat human settlements with respect. The Zentari Empire began emergency military exercises, desperately trying to determine how their forces would fare against human technology. The Hegemony Alliance started drafting new trade agreements that heavily favored human interests. But it was the smaller species that showed the most dramatic response. The Kepler system became a pilgrimage site for species that had been bullied or dismissed by the larger powers. They came seeking protection, trade agreements, and most importantly, proof that it was possible to stand up to galactic bullies.